Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn. And today I'm so excited to have my friend, my breasty friend over the pond, over on the other side, Andrea Moulding. Andrea and I actually connected, I believe, on LinkedIn, and we've been connected for quite some time. We've been trying to be on each other's podcasts for a long time, and we're finally getting to it. So Andrea was diagnosed in 2018. She had grade 3 HER2 positive tumor. She had National Health Service gold standard treatment, chemo, radiotherapy, Herceptin injections, and surgery. She had a mastectomy and deep flap and a nipple reconstruction. She has the usual legacy conditions, lymphedema and osteopenia. During treatment, when she had time on her hands, she wrote her first novel, Throwing Salt at the Devil. She then decided that all the medical information was too medical-like and scary, so she wrote Stay on the Bus. The aim was to make the information more palatable and easier to read for people going through breast cancer. Andrea's avatar is a lollipop lady to help people navigate breast cancer. She made her unique outfit with a beach ball and a pizza box. Andrea, along with her co-host Estelle Mar, launched a podcast, Get It Off Your Chest, the funny side of breast cancer. It recently won the Independent Podcast Award for Comedy in October 2024. The goal of the podcast is to make cancer discussion easier for everyone, take away the loneliness, and create a community using humor. Andrea has recently launched a YouTube channel. She has had a varied career as a probation officer, social worker, and worked in large learning disability charity. She now runs a marketing agency, and now she's on Test Those Breasts. Hello, Andrea. It's so nice to
Hello,
see you and
we
chat
meet
with
properly
you.
at last. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie.
Yeah, you and I have messaged back and forth quite a few times on LinkedIn, and
We have.
I mean, I think it's probably been over a year since we've been connected, and now here we are. We got to have a good conversation the other day for the first time, and here we are. So I would love for you to share your story. You know, I always ask breast cancer survivors, who on earth was Andrea before breast cancer?
Well, I think that's a really, really good question. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, I was just one of those people who let life kind of carry them along. I was always busy. I've got twins. I've got two kids. I was working full time. Like everybody else, I had dreams and things I wanted to do, like write a book and do all sorts of stuff. But I never took the time to stand still and sort of take a breath. So I think that was me. I was just incredibly busy and I was all over the place. And, you know, it's like before you have children, you say, what did I ever used to do with my evenings? So I think that was me. I was just all over the place.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny and interesting that every single breast cancer survivor I've talked to, probably all of them, most of them anyway, they were busy.
Yeah.
They were like, you know, they had a busy schedule. Whether they had kids or not, had a very big social calendar. They worked tons, during the
Mm.
week and had a good activity life, outdoor life. Maybe they were skiers or whatever, but just always had something on their calendar. And that was totally me at that
Yeah.
time as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very interesting common theme. So, share with us what your breast cancer diagnosis was and what your treatments were like and all the things.
Right. Well, you've kind of outlined my diagnosis, I think, at the beginning. I found a lump, like most people do. Just dismissed it really as a sort of cyst because my sister's got a bit of a history of that. Went along to the doctor. He said, "Yeah, it's probably a cyst." So I didn't think anything of it really. I kind of skipped off to the hospital, kind of really excited that I got a day off work, and then the next thing, all hell breaks loose, and you get taken to the quiet room. where they've got the kind of faux furniture and the horrible clock, and you're in trouble really. So that was the kind of beginning. From there, you have the horrendous wait of kind of 10 days after the biopsy, which is another kettle of fish.
Yes.
And then to be told, well, Thursday night at 5 o'clock, I saw my consultant, and her words to me were, "We'll have to remove the breast, and I've booked you in for Monday morning at 7:30." So I
Oh
got,
my God.
yeah. So I kind of, I had Friday, which was all those kind of pre-tests that you have to have, where they weigh you and tell you you're fat and all that sort of stuff. Saturday, I had to tell the kids, which is another story in itself. Then on Sunday, my mum arrived, and then on the Monday morning, 6:30, I was driving to the hospital for a mastectomy. So I had a mastectomy, some lymph nodes out, obviously. Then I had chemo. I had some lymph involvement. So I had the kind of horrendous PET scan or whatever it's called, when you go through the donut, to see if it had
Yes.
spread. That was absolutely horrible. And then I had radiotherapy. And then because I had a hormone positive tumour, I had 18 Herceptin injections over a period of time, like every three weeks, I think it was. Then I had all my lymph nodes out. I'm not quite sure if that's the right order, but yeah, it's all a bit of a blur, really. But I think I got both barrels. But like I say, I was in the gold standard NHS, so I was very lucky.
So, it's interesting that you say that you had to wait for 10 days after your biopsy. For me, it was 24 hours. And the only
Really?
reason it was 24 hours is I knew my radiologist. We
You?
were friends. And so he was able to let me know within 24 hours, like literally
Yeah.
24 hours later after I had it. I do know what it's like to have to wait because I have had biopsies before and I've had lumpectomies. So I know what it's like to have that space of waiting. It is
Oh,
just so
it's
it's
like
terrible.
you don't want the day to come, but you're in kind of limbo land, aren't you? You can't
Yes.
relax. Nothing. You watch telly and nothing.
Yep.
Nothing goes in. You can't think straight. It's the worst. It's the worst part is the waiting, definitely. Well, I think once you get
Yeah,
your treatment
and you
plan,
don't have a plan. Like once
yeah,
you if you don't have a plan, you don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, it's like I didn't want to know and I did need to know
yeah,
thing,
exactly,
you know?
exactly. But I'm a
So,
total baby. I didn't like. I can't stand waiting, and I can't stand any of the medical info. I am a total baby. I tell you.
well, I'm a total baby too. And honestly, I think that being that way, I think it's a strength, honestly. I don't think that's a weakness. I think we internalize, we feel, we overthink and things like that. So I want to say that that's a strength,
Well,
Andrea.
I will take that.
Um,
If you say it's a
and by the way, crying, I cried a lot.
oh, it's a
And
nightmare. Yeah,
see, and then we say that, oh, I was a nightmare. I was a total mess. But actually, it's very healing to cry. We need to cry.
yeah,
We need to let it out. And so I find that society makes us feel like we are weak, overreacting, cry too much, all the things.
mm,
And I say, fuck that. I don't
yeah.
even, no way.
No, well,
I'm
I'll
a
take it.
completely different when I ask who people were before breast cancer, I was a lot the same way that you were. And I have always spoken out against societal norms. But I actually am more speaking out against societal norms now after breast cancer
Yeah.
because I just think it's all a bunch of bullshit. So
Well, like
anyway, and
for me, it's that stuff around. Oh, you've got to fight it, and like I say in my book,
stay
you don't
strong.
be strong. It's like if you have a heart attack, they don't say we'll beat this heart attack together. Let's fight it. It's just like, why is it with cancer that you've got to kind of don a sort of kind of become a knight? Do you know what I mean? And start fighting cancer
Yeah.
back. It's
Suck
actually
it
okay
up.
to
Stay
fall.
strong. So, okay. So let's talk about, you had said something about your lymph nodes. You had a lot of lymph nodes removed.
Yeah.
So tell us about post cancer. What are you dealing with now?
Well, I've got a kind of lymphedema, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the lymph nodes are like a kind of taxi service that if you cut yourself, they take all the kind of germs away. I hope that's a good explanation. Um, and so every now and again, I get a kind of massive sausage hand that looks like I've got kind of a massive sausage on every hand, and I can't bend it. And the NHS, National Health Service, they give you this thing. They call it a sleeve. It's like American tan tights. It's absolutely disgusting, and you get
I
a little
have one.
glove. Oh, you have one, yes. I
I
call it
do.
my gauntlet, which again is my knight, fighting breast cancer. But
Love it.
yeah, and I have to wear that every now and again. But when I broke my ankle, which having had cancer, not being able to go out, it was then COVID when I couldn't go out, and then I went out to celebrate when COVID left. Had too much red wine in the noodle bar, fell over and broke my ankle, so I couldn't go out again.
Oh no.
But when I had my Zimmer frame, my lymphedema was really managed well because I was constantly using my arm all the time. So yeah, I mean, I can. It's not that bad. I mean, I've seen people that got very very difficult ones, and I'm
Really
being a bit of
bad.
a drama queen. It the sausage hand strikes now and again, but it's not all the time. And I sit there with my arm watching telly, and it helps it. So I've got that. The other thing I've got is osteopenia, which is the one before osteoporosis, which everyone's heard of, um,
Okay.
which is caused by chemo. Basically, it kind of wrecks your bones density. So my bone density is quite poor. So I've just joined the gym, and I'm going to start kind of weight bearing. I take the dog out twice a day, but it's a Jack Russell, so it just sniffs everything. So I don't actually do much walking. Sniffs every blade of grass, about 10 meters. But it is something you can manage with, as you know, probably, and your listeners know, with nutrition and
Yes.
exercise. So that's what the next thing I'm going to do is start kind of really looking after myself.
It's so important for women to take care of their bones and do weights and things like that. I actually did go get a bone density test after chemo, and it came back in the normal range. It was
Oh,
fine.
good. Hmm.
But I also interviewed someone here in town who runs Evoke Warriors. Her name is Mena, and she was talking about how women need to make sure they are, lifting weights, some sort of a weight exercise on their full body to take care of
Mm,
their bones. It's so important to be able to do that about 4 or 5 times a week at
yeah.
least. So good for you for doing that. Okay, so and then I want to go back to when you just said that you were a drama queen with your sausage hand. Um, yeah. I would say that any normal person would look at that and probably be a little freaked out by that. So drama queen. There's another social norm
Yeah.
that needs to
Smash that
go
social norm.
with.
I'm a
Smash
British
it,
queen.
man.
We're very self-effacing, and we say things like
Yeah.
that. But
Yes.
actually, I don't think I'm a
Um,
drama queen.
so I had 3 lymph nodes removed on the breast cancer side and then 1 on the other side. And I've actually had swelling in my left arm.
Hmm.
And it freaked me out. I was like, so I mean, I just know that you're not supposed to get tattoos. You're
Mm,
not supposed to go in a too hot of water. Things like that. And also wear a sleeve when you're working out. And so I've got
yeah,
my sleeves. There are just so many things you cannot do when you've had lymph nodes removed. So
yeah, yeah,
so important to get that education when you've had breast cancer, after breast cancer, to know the things that you should not do. And I've interviewed a couple of people who have talked about lymphedema and all the things you shouldn't do. So,
And also, I think we
um,
need, sorry to interrupt you, Jamie, but also I think we
yeah.
need to mention cellulitis. Anyone who's had their lymph nodes out is susceptible to that.
Yes.
And I've had it twice. And it's like a kind of burn. It looks like you've burnt yourself on a kettle or something. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, you've got a blood clot," and sent me to Leicester Royal Infirmary A&E, which was a nightmare. I was there for 9.5 hours, only to be told that I didn't have a blood clot. It was cellulitis. So the next time I got it, I went to the doctors and I said, "It's not a blood clot. I've got cellulitis. I need some antibiotics." So, it's good to be vigilant against that as well.
Yeah, vigilant and also advocating for yourself. The more we know,
Yeah.
the better. And we want to make sure that we're understanding that it's not disrespecting a doctor if you question them, but also going and getting second opinions. That's
Mhm.
really important to be able to do that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because there's a bit of a difference between cellulitis and a blood clot. You know,
Yes.
I'm just saying, right? All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're doing in your survivorship. So first of all, you wrote a couple of books and you have this wonderful, funny podcast that I'm excited to interview on coming up here
Yeah.
shortly.
We
So
got you
tell us,
in, haven't we?
love it. Tell us more about what you're doing in your survivorship.
Right. Well, I think as we kind of touched on before, I wrote the book Stay on the Bus, which was written because, like I said before, I couldn't look at any of the medical information. The NHS, wonderful, wonderful organisation, would never criticise them. But the information they give you says things like they have a tumour and a mass, and they're all like horrible, horrible words. I mean, cancer's bad enough, and they
Yeah.
smack you with tumour. Um, and I am not the sort of person who goes and kind of Googles everything and, does a spreadsheet about all the different research documents. I just go, I can't look, just tell me what to do, tell me what to do. But you do need to know that information because you've got to be in control of your own health and you've got to be able to advocate for yourself. So what I felt was missing was some kind of book that told you all the information you needed to know, made you laugh, didn't kind of, you know soft soap, is that the right word? Told you, you might get cellulitis. It's very dangerous, but I say cellulitis, it sounds like some sort of kind of spread that you'd have on avocado toast, but actually it can be, quite dangerous. Um, so what I did with the book was, because and one of the challenges is not all breast cancers are the same and not everyone has the same treatment plan. I broke it down into three sections: diagnosis, treatment, which is obviously the kind of big bit, and then once they cut the apron strings, when they say, "Okay, you've been here every day for the last,
Yep.
year. Oh, we'll see you in a
Bye.
year. Bye." And you've got to stop freaking out. So that's how I split it up, so you can kind of dip into the bits you need to know about. It's got loads of funny stories and stupid stuff in it. And as you say, it's about navigating breast cancer. So I've got a kind of red bus on the front. In fact, here's one I made earlier. So that's me hanging onto the bus with the kind of boobs in the background. And
Love it. Oh my God. Will you show that again? I need to see that again. Okay. If
yeah,
you're watching this on YouTube, you'll know what I'm saying. That is a fantastic cover. I love it.
thank you.
I need to have that book. Yes, I love it.
Well, I will
Okay.
send you one. I'll send you this very copy. And it was
I
so
think it's
funny
great.
when I had the person Michelle who did the cover. I told her what I wanted. I drew a really poor picture of a bus, and she made it all good. And then she sent it back, and I sent her an email back saying, "I need more boobs on it." So there's boobs on the bus. There's the lights of boobs. There's boobs on the side. The mountains of boobs.
Yes.
And said that's the kind of funniest thing she'd ever kind of got as a kind of steer on a book cover. So
It's perfect. It's perfect. It's kind of like my logo. I don't know if you've seen my logo, but
yes,
it's
I
an
have.
owl,
That's those
but they're
breasts. Yeah,
boobs. Yeah, yeah. The
yeah.
owl, so I had a former colleague of mine, he designed that for me. And I didn't even ask him to. I just said, "Look, I'm doing a breast cancer podcast, and it's called Test Those Breasts." And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "Let me play around with it." And he comes up with that. And the reason he did the owl is because the owl is my mom's spirit animal.
Oh,
So
really?
when she died, yeah, I saw a huge owl the next night, and that now we see owls all the time. But he remembered that,
Oh,
and then he
that's
made him into
amazing.
breasts. So I thought, oh, how clever.
And also the wisdom of the owl as well.
So you use humor and to help others, which I think is so important. Anytime we're going through any kind of thing traumatic, like right now in the United States, you and I talked about this the other day, and you guys are all watching from over there is thinking, oh my God, what the fuck is going on with the United
Yeah,
States of America? And it's horrifying. And I am not afraid to say that.
yeah,
We have a lot of good community here, and we talk about making sure that you are using humor and making sure that you are including joy in your life, doing the things that you love to do. Go to
yeah.
the wine country with your friends, go skiing, walk your dogs, use some
Mm,
humor. So we know that those things are helpful in traumatic times like this. So I
mm.
appreciate that. And I've been watching you guys, and I was like, I really need to get in touch with these two. But then I thought to myself, but I don't know if I have anything really funny to say, like,
Oh,
I mean, I do have funny things to say, but
I bet everybody does. Everybody does. So, I think, Jamie, you're talking about our podcast, Get It Off Your Chest, The Funny Side of Breast Cancer, which Estelle, who's my publisher, she basically, we were phoning each other up, having all these professional conversations about book. Well, they weren't very professional, actually. We ended up having a glass of wine kind of on the phone, and we're best friends now, and she was a breast cancer survivor, and we just started telling each other all these like hilarious stories that happen to you, because they do happen to you when you're having treatment. All sorts of things happen. And I just said to her, we've got to do a podcast about this. It'd be really funny. So we just did it. And we had no idea what we were doing. And some of them I can't even listen to. They're really quite embarrassing. But you've just got to power on. And yeah, we did it. And since we've been doing it, I think the main aim of it is that when you tell people you've got cancer, they say, "Oh, I'm really sorry you've got cancer." And they almost whisper it, because in our society, especially Brits, we don't, we don't talk about things like that. It's all stiff upper lip. And if you can't talk about it, then it's very isolating. But if you bring in humour and you are kind of outrageous with it, and people are laughing with you, then you can start having conversations about all of these things. And so we think that's really healthy. And also, if you're in a town, like we have things like Maggie centres and that, but they're only in the big cities. And if you're in a rural area, or even if you're not in a rural area, I'm not really in a rural area, but I'm not really near a big town. There's no kind of community there. So if you can hear people going through the same sort of kind of trials and tribulations as yourself, then it just makes you laugh, and you just think you're part of a big community. So that's why we did it, really.
I
But
love it. It's perfect.
but since then, I'm actually in the process of setting up what's called a community interest company, or CIC, because I think, wonderful as the NHS is, National Health Service,
Mhm.
is there are some gaps in provision. Like they fix you like you're a broken table. So you go there, and I'm very grateful to them because they've obviously saved my life. But they fix you, and they look at you like you're right, we'll stick this here and we'll do this, and it's all very perfunctory. And I think that as a person, when you're going through that, there's all the emotional side of stuff. There's all stuff that they don't really meet those needs, and that's because they don't get given enough money. The NHS is, it's creaking at the seams, and it's an amazing organisation, but they don't have money for it. So myself and a couple of breast cancer survivors, we're putting together a community interest company at the moment. We want to go and look where the needs are, the needs that aren't met by the
Right.
NHS, and then we're going to do kind of workshops. And I've also going to do a conference, an international conference, but it's not going to be a conference. It's going to be like having comedians, and fashion show, and I'm going to have the podcast on live there, and people can come and they can go into little rooms and meet each other. And I've been kind of gifted the software for that, so learning how to use
So
that software is a whole
where
nother
will
trauma.
so you said it'll be international. So you just are you going to be doing it from where you are
Yeah, well,
so
what I'll
people can
do is,
chime in?
I want to call it a kind of huddle or a fireside chat
Mhm.
for those people that have been diagnosed. So they can, there'll be kind of two stages where you can have speakers coming and giving people information. But also, I don't want it to be all kind of uptight. I want it to be very funny. I want people to enjoy
Right.
it. I want it to be an opportunity for people to meet people and make connections. And that's something I've got planned for next year, basically.
In
And I'm
person
hoping,
though. It's going to be
no,
in
it's going to be
person.
online. It's going to be
It's
online.
gonna be online. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would highly are you gonna have people, other, like, nonprofits that are very helpful for the breast cancer community be involved?
Yeah. I mean, it's all in. I've been planning it for about a year.
Okay.
In my head.
Yeah.
um, I've already approached someone who's going to give me some software where you can kind of pull up chairs and you can have little breakout rooms and things like that. So
Oh
it's
my
not
god,
Zoom.
so fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
and
be so great.
well, you'll have to come. You'll have to come and speak. You'll do
Yes.
your
Yes,
podcast
I
live
will
on it.
speak. I will speak, and I will also recommend that you get in touch with Know Your Lemons if you
Yeah,
haven't already, because they're such a fun, quirky
yeah,
organization and really fun way to learn about breast cancer and
yeah.
all of that stuff. So, yeah, really, really a good idea, Andrea. I can't wait until that happens.
Well, now I've said it
Yeah,
on your podcast, it has to happen, doesn't it? So I've put pressure
it's
on
now it
myself.
absolutely has to happen. It's like it's solid. Like I can't edit any of this out.
No.
No, I and it's so good. We need to have platforms, where people can go and get, accurate information. I feel like it is the duty for us to be able to make sure that people are getting accurate information. So I
Absolutely. And
think
I
that
think,
that let
yeah,
yeah,
I was going to say, I think we could even do it over 2 days. We could do one for different
totally.
time zones because obviously, it's it's in the evening here where it's in the morning
Yeah.
for you. But so we could almost do it in a rolling way. And because it
Yeah.
wouldn't cost, we wouldn't charge for it. But if we had sponsors that, or I could get the money through the
Yeah.
CIC, yeah, obviously I'll give my time free, but, getting speakers in and things like that. I just think it'd
Well,
be
like
really,
Dr. Liz would be
yeah,
really good on there and
yeah.
yeah.
She's, she's
We have
amazing.
such an amazing community. So your YouTube channel. Tell us
Yes.
tell us what's up with your YouTube channel.
Right, well, I've literally just launched it. So, if you go on it, you're not going to see like millions and millions of followers. Um, but the whole idea behind it is really like the book. So with the book, everything's in kind of chunks, very easy to understand. So, if you've got a seroma where you get a kind of build up of fluid, I'm going to have like a pint of Newcastle brown ale. So this is what it looks like. It's got a frothy top, but don't drink it, and this is what it is, and this is when you get it, and this is how they'll fix it. So I'm
Yeah.
going to make kind of little videos about things like that and cellulitis. My next one is going to be about lymphedema, actually. And I've got these new gloves which come up to here that you can put your hand through kind of, bushes of holly and it doesn't scratch them, and things like that. And just say, get these washing up gloves. They look like my children say, Mum, are you going to commit a murder? You look like you've chopped up a body. Because I don't wear like normal washing up gloves. Mine are kind of super duper black. You know, they look like I'm about to kind of, um, cut somebody up. They call them
Oh
my
my
murderer
gosh.
gloves. So just things like that, really. I want the YouTube channel to be there so that for people like me that are, you know, can't look at anything, it is a massive shock. They say, right, I need to find out about X. I'll go and have a look on Andrea's YouTube channel and I'll get the information. It won't be too scary and I'll know what I need to do. So that's the aim of it. As I say, I've only just launched it, so I've got about 3 videos on there, but I plan to do kind of 2 a week and really build it up and get it there as a resource for people. I've recently also launched my website, which again is all fun. It's all meant to be very fun. Um, and I'm going to have a big resource page on there that will that again people can dip into. So I've got a course about forest bathing, which is about mental health and how to cope with it, so that you can kind of practically just take that and go and do it. So how to avoid insects and how to make your own cream and all that sort of stuff. Really, just stuff that you don't get told that's very useful to know.
I think that's great. You and I have such a we are so similar in so many ways. I'm so glad that we finally got to talk because
Absolutely.
with my Test Those Breasts, I'm a nonprofit and I have a resource page, and I always take my guests' resources and put them on my resource page. Um,
And
so
you'll be on mine as well.
I love that. I love that you're going to do those visuals too. I remember the one time I watch Dr. Liz's videos all the time. Like one time she did a video with a cup of coffee and and showed us what dense breasts looks like. Well,
Yeah,
she put milk in it, and it's like, this is what we see when we do, like mammograms. You can't see anything when you have dense breasts. So you always have to do something that's like another
yeah,
screening to be able to see things. And that's what I've
yeah,
always done. They've always done a diagnostics mammogram with a
yeah.
ultrasound, and that's how they found the associated mass and the
Mm,
groupings of calcifications. I'm a very visual person, so seeing things like
me
that
too.
will be so helpful. Yeah.
Well, it's a
Can't
work in
wait.
progress. I mean, the trouble is when you work full time, you've got to earn a living, and it's like I really really feel drawn to setting up this community interest company because I do think there is so many gaps in the NHS provision, and that they're amazing. They put you back together, but sometimes I think people need a little bit more. Like they say to you, "Oh, by the way, you'll go through the menopause." That's kind of, oh, okay. just
All
they
right, I
just
guess
throw it at you. Oh yeah, yeah, you'll go through the menopause anyway. You know,
you'll
your
lose your
appointment's
hair and
next
you'll go through menopause and you'll look like
week. Yeah,
shit, and but
yeah,
it's no,
exactly,
no big deal. No big deal. You'll be
exactly.
fine. Did you lose all your hair too?
Oh yeah, I used to have like
Okay.
really, really curly hair, and it's come back kind of wavy. I've lost
I
my.
love it.
I used to look like Charles the First, with like really ringlety hair. It's all gone. It's all gone. But you know,
Ugh,
cold caps. Again, I don't think I got much information about cold caps, but I think with kind of thick curly hair, they don't work
yeah.
that well. But I don't really know, and I don't want to say that out there because there's probably people shouting at the screen going, "Yes, they do." And not
Well,
everybody's hair
yeah.
comes back. You know,
I actually thought about doing that before, but everything was moving so fast that I didn't even have time to order the stuff, and it was very expensive and all the things. I just didn't know enough about it.
yeah,
But
me
as
too.
I was going along, I actually saw a couple people doing the cold capping.
Mm,
As I when I would be in like the infusion center and stuff like that, and they said that it worked. They lost some of their hair, but it worked, fairly well. But it is very expensive, and I watched the person who was with them doing the cold capping for them. And it is a ton of work,
yeah,
tons of work. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I just went ahead and just lost my hair. And then I got
yeah.
used to being bald.
Yeah, me too. I rock that bald look. I only ever wore my wig. I mean, I don't know what wigs are like in America, but we get ours on the NHS. Mine was horrible, and I only ever wore it to parents' evening. Otherwise, I kind of rocked my chemo hat and massive shades. And my sister, so this is a book, my sister went onto eBay and bought me all these kind of really, really funky hats. And they arrived kind of 6 months after my hair had grown back, and they were so tiny they'd kind of fit a kind of tiny doll. Do you know what I mean? So be careful if you're buying chemo hats that you buy them from a reputable seller because mine was so tiny. But no, I didn't mind having a bald head after a while. Once I kind of got used to it,
Yeah,
you
it
just
kind of
get used
felt
to
good.
it.
I mean, I was in the middle of summer, so it was hot anyway. And I did get a wig, and it's a super cute wig. And then my son-in-law's mom gave me her wig. I never wore the wig ever. I only wore like turbans or beanies or went
Yeah,
bald. And it wasn't until after I started growing my hair back that we went to a murder mystery dinner with some friends, and I wore the wig, and it was super cute, but
yeah,
I just never wore it when I had cancer and stuff. And I did get some really super cute beanies and turbans.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
There's a lot
rocked it
out there.
too with the big glasses
Yeah,
and
the big shades. Yeah, absolutely.
okay. S- So one of the last questions I like to ask is, because my audience is very well aware that my mission is to reach people who've never had breast cancer. I think that we need to reach people who've never had breast cancer, especially even if they're like in their 20s and 30s. What kind of a big piece of advice would you give to people who don't have breast cancer on their radar and that they should maybe?
Yeah, I think that the in society, breast cancer, because it's the C word, cancer, we don't talk about it. We need to talk about it. It affects one in, I don't know, 4 or 8 women. I can't remember what the facts are. I think I'm different depending where
Over
you look.
here in the United States, it's 1 in 8.
Yeah, 1 in 8, say. So, if you're out with your mates in the pub, it's pretty likely that out of you 8 people, one of you is going to get breast cancer.
Yeah.
And it is so important to be vigilant and to check your breasts, as everyone says. And if you don't know how to do it, because it's not something that you're taught at school, even though I think it should be, go on YouTube, have a look. There's plenty of videos out there that show you how to do it, and go to the doctor if you find anything unusual. It's not just a lump. It's all sorts of things, and test those breasts. Have got a fantastic test your lemons, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Know your lemons. Know your
know your
lemons and
lemons.
test those
Yeah,
breasts.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I would say no matter what age you are, go to your mammograms when they come in. Over here, you have to be over 50. Um, but it is something that's affecting people a lot younger. And I think in Canada they've just reduced it to 40, haven't they? But um, yeah, I mean we have a responsibility for our own health, and you know make
I never
sure that it's a
asked what your
conversation.
age was. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
52.
Okay, so I was 54.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I've
So
interviewed a ton of people who were in their late 20s, early 30s, pregnant.
exactly, exactly.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, the chances are, if you do find something, it probably is a cyst. But just go and get it checked. Don't leave it.
Yes.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
goes for men as well.
I actually gone in a couple of months prior to getting that notification that I needed to make an appointment, I probably would have been stage 0 or 1.
Really? Yeah,
Because I did feel a lump. I did feel zingers and hot spots, but
yeah,
that lump, I should have called,
yeah. Well,
but
hindsight's
I
a
did.
very, yeah, it's a very good thing, isn't it? You're still here.
It
Um,
is. And
you know,
the other thing is that you say that you have to work to make money, and yet you are still out there rocking the survivorship advocacy work for breast cancer patients. And I just think that's wonderful, and bringing awareness and all of the things and humor. And we are so grateful that you're out there. And I'm just grateful that I got to we finally got to meet.
we did, and we will be meeting again soon because
Yes.
you're coming on my
Yes.
podcast. Yes, so that'll
Yeah,
be
and I would like to
fantastic.
collaborate too. I mean, I would love to be able to be part of your idea that's sitting in your head right now. Uh,
Yeah. Well, now I've said it out loud, as I say, I mean, I'm literally, I've got my 2 directors for my CIC. I think there's a real need, especially where you are at the moment with, what's happening.
yes.
There are people in lots of different communities whose needs are just not being met. And I think also the voice of the patient, is so important. I love my doctors and all of them, they're amazing. But it's so useful to speak to people who've been through it as well, and the sort of
Mhm.
support you get from the community. it's amazing. I've made some fantastic friends, you know, through. It's nice to be called an advocate. I never really think of myself as an advocate because I don't really do much, really. I've just kind of do the podcast and written the book, but I'm not kind of out talking to people. But I think I want to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but just doing what you're doing is advocacy work.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
helping people, you're bringing humor to people, you're bringing real information to people. So that is advocacy work. I think that, there's so many different ways that we can um, advocate for people, and that doesn't have to be in person or anything like that.
Yeah,
I think that we are all, and also, your website with resources on there, that is advocacy.
yeah.
So
Well, thank you. That's
there you
very
have
kind
it.
of you to
There you
say.
have it. And so I hereby crown you with the
Thank you.
advocacy, the
I'm going to get the
advocacy
t-shirt
work.
now. Yeah.
I hereby tell you, I was going to introduce you to my dog Griselda, but Griselda, I was going to have her come up here and meet you.
Oh,
She is my little stinker
yeah.
who ate my AirPods overnight, and I had to use my husband's earpods. Well, she must be outside, but anyway, I was going to introduce you to her, but not a big deal. Um, Andrea, I am just thank you again for taking the time. I know that it's late your time. We're 8 hours apart,
No,
morning
it's
here,
great.
evening there. And I look forward to being on your podcast.
Yeah, can't
And is
wait.
there anything you'd like to leave us with before we disconnect?
Well, I did kind of think that for all those people that have just been diagnosed with breast cancer, all those people that are going through that dreadful stage that you go through where you think your life will never be the same again and it's almost too much to bear. I think, and I've spoken to a lot of people about this, having breast cancer, you know, yes, it's tough, but it also gives you a little bit of growth as well. It gives you that time to kind of stop because you can't go out being kind of hectic. So when you can't go out, you have to go inwards and you pull out reserves you don't know you have. You do things you never thought you would do. I never thought I'd write a book. I never thought I'd make my own podcast, and here I am talking to you. You've done about a
Yep.
thousand podcasts compared to me. So, I just want to say, don't kind of where you are now, you will fly. You will use the community and just remember that it won't always be this bad.
For sure. And it does help a lot to get out there and talk to the
Oh,
community. I do not recommend people doom Google or not connect with the community. Because otherwise you're just going to it's just not going to fare well. I was going down that road in the beginning, and I reached out and I became
yeah.
involved with the community, and so I think that really helped out a lot. Speaking of your book, did you think of a passage?
This is something I wrote about with some of the things that you can go to. Yeah, so I'll do this one. Okay, do you want me to start reading it? This is
Yes.
about one of the charities that the NHS put you in touch with, and what they do is they get a bunch of people, like when you're kind of completely bald, you've got no eyelashes, no eyebrows, and
Eyebrows.
my eyelashes have never come back. I look like a kind of lizard, and
You
you're
don't.
all blotchy,
That
and
is not true.
you know what it's like, and you're kind of like, oh my god. They give you this place called there's a charity called Look Good Feel Better. Look Good Feel Better. And it's amazing. You go there, it's like a half day, and they give you a kind of big bag of very expensive goodies, and then they do their makeup, and you get to meet all the other women, and then you just chat really, and it's all about the chat really. But
Okay.
they show you how to do your makeup and all that sort of stuff. So
Oh, fun.
yeah, so I'll just read this. Um, Given the enormity of your diagnosis, the complexities of what makeup to apply seems trivial and self-obsessed. I was lucky enough to get a place on Look Good, Feel Better workshop. They describe themselves as a leading cancer support charity aimed at boosting the physical and emotional well-being of people living with cancer. They provide workshops covering skincare and makeup, grooming, hair loss, hair care, wig advice and nail care. I've put the details in the helpful links section. Underfunded, as all charities are, there were limited places, and I had to wait 3 months before I found myself in a room with 10 other women, all clutching gift bags of surprisingly posh goodies of makeup and perfume. The volunteers take you through practical steps of how to apply foundation, eye makeup, and skincare products. As I had an eye infection, I sat out for some of it, but it was fun to watch everyone else. The most hilarious thing was drawing on eyebrows. You might think this is easy. Think again. The team of volunteers, who are all makeup professionals, spent ages meticulously showing us how to do it. It all looked easy and seamless. Then it was our turn. Shakily holding the pencil, we tried to follow the contours of our eyes as we had been instructed. Triumphantly, the woman next to me threw down her brown pencil and asked me what I thought of her attempt. Without thinking or even trying to hide my horror, I blurted out that she looked really evil. She got like, and I've got that picture there. And then,
Wait, show that again. Show that on the screen so our YouTube people
I'll
can
just
see it.
finish this bit because it
Okay.
pictured it up.
Okay.
Heavy-handed and inept, we looked like a permanently surprised bunch of pantomime villains. Luckily, she had a sense of humour, and we spent the next 10 minutes in hysterics. To be honest, the experience of meeting other women and having a laugh was just as valuable as the makeup lesson. So a permanently surprised pantomime villains. That's what we look
Love
like.
it. Oh
So
my goodness.
that was
So
just,
if you're not on YouTube, go over to YouTube. You got to see this picture that she used.
and that's what the book is. It's just loads of really stupid little stories and things that happen, really.
Stay on the bus.
Stay on the bus.
Stay on the bus. I have that all in the show notes. I've got your YouTube channel, your website, your books, and your podcast.
Brilliant.
Get it off your chest. And Andrea, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation, very enlightening, humorous. I feel like you're like one of my new breasty friends, and I just appreciate
absolutely.
you.
So if you're ever in the UK, we'll have to meet up. Absolutely. I've met so many fabulous people through doing
I
the
would
book
love
now.
that. And I love the UK.
Yes. Well, you're invited to my house anytime you like. And when I put my conference together, I will be on the phone to you. And if you send me your address, I'll send you a copy of my book.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you. All right. Well, and to my audience, I really appreciate your joining us again on this episode of Test Those Breasts. As usual, please head over to your favorite podcast platform and rate and review this podcast. It really does help get the word out to the rest of the world. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Test Those Breasts. Bye for now.